Junkyard Junkie, back here with another video. Are you looking to add remote start to any vehicle? Well, look no further. This video is for you. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2010 Mazda 3. We'll be doing a full guide on how to install a aftermarket remote starter to pretty much any vehicle you can possibly think of. Okay, as you can see here, I'm using the Compustar 7900 AS. It is a two-way LCD remote start security system. I prefer two-way remote start systems because that way it lets you know that it did in fact start your car, where one ways you may not know if it did or didn't because it will not give you that confirmation. Now, to go with that, our brains essentially will be this DC3-LC remote start module. Compustar really doesn't want you to install it on your own, but we have our instructions, our remote transmitter, we have our brains, which would be our CM900AS. Now, like I said, we're going to use the DC3 instead. We have our accessories, so we got our shock and tilt sensor. So next we have an antenna. We have our regular key fob. This has remote start on it, it's just not the LCD one. Next we have our engine lock relay. We're going to need this. I'll show you that in the paperwork in just a second. We have our alarm system. Probably not going to hook this up either. Now then, we have all of our wires. We also have the LCD remote transmitter, 2WT9R-FM. So here it is outside of the box. You got your buttons on the side, and it takes one AAA battery. That is included. Okay, so one more thing I forgot to order that I'll show you later in the video is this FT-HRN-DC3, but you'll see that later in the video. Or option is this iDataLink HCX Universal Hardware Harness Kit. If we scroll down, we get our 10 pin, we get our 20 pin, 12 pin, 10 pin, 6 pin, and 2 wire harness. Now, most cars that are 2011 and up usually will have a T-harness, and if it does, that's the first thing you want to check for. I'll show you that later on in the video because it makes it pretty much almost plug and play, if not plug and play. But the good thing about this video is this car does not have a T-harness that is sold for it. That means that we have to splice directly into the wiring, which you can do on any vehicle. That way you know what to do if you have to do it. So let's go jump on the computer and look up the wiring diagram and show you how to do all that. Okay, so all you're going to do is pull up your favorite web browser. Everybody uses Google. So go up here to the address bar and we're just going to type in iDataLink DC3. And right here, my first tech FT-DC3-LC. Now from here, you can click what's included, and all you get is the module itself. You don't get any of the wiring. So remember, you'll have to get that. Now, under installation info, we'll go down here and we're going to be working on a Mazda. Say 2010 and 3. Now then, is it with the standard key automatic or push to start? It's the standard key. Okay, so flashing tools, you will need this ADS-USB. Don't really need that or any of these, but required accessories right here, you'll need some kind of remote start, which of course, and you'll need the FT-HRN-DC3. This is your wiring. Now you can also upgrade to the drone mobile so you can start your car via your phone, but this is a monthly plan that you have to subscribe to. So if we scroll back up and we hit download guide, here we go. Now we have everything we need to know. If you come down here, it's telling you where everything's at, or the general idea at least. And if you come down here, we have our wiring diagram. Now here's the connectors. So switch A, ignition switch A, which is right over here. This is where we'll look. At this point, it's really simple. This is designed for this vehicle, so we have to flash this first, which I will be showing you in a second. But other than that, using your car's make and model and all that, it'll tell you which wires you got to hook up to which connectors, and we'll get into that now. It shows you what you need to do to program it. This will essentially clone your key, so that way it bypasses the immobilizer. Down here is your takeover procedure. So this is another little programming thing we'll have to do. It's no big deal. Next up, we got our module, and it's telling you everything you got. You got your battery, drone, RF port, so on and so on. Now, this web link port is the one that you use to connect it to a computer. Why they don't use USB, I don't know. Maybe one of you can leave it down there in the comments and let me know why. Other than, of course, making more money off of accessories. Here's your connector pinout. This really isn't too important unless you're, I guess, doing it on some kind of Frankenstein car that you put together. Now down here, this is actually really cool. So if you got errors, then it will give you certain error codes to let you know what's going on, why your remote start isn't working, and you can go back and fix it. Same right here with the actual module itself. If it's just flashing red on this LED 1, then you're missing the firmware or have the wrong firmware. And so on and so forth. So that's about all you need to know for right now. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so one of the great things is if your vehicle has a T-harness kit, you definitely want to find out first, because if you order that, you don't have to splice into any wires. It's just completely plug and play and makes this job so much simpler. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our DC3. We're going to change it to a, let's say, Jeep. We'll do 2012 Grand Cherokee. And we'll do standard key. Now then, required accessories, ADS-THR CH4. This is your T-harness kit right here. Factory fit installation T-harness for select Chrysler Group tip start. So this is what you need. And let me show you what that looks like in the wiring diagram. So we'll go back. And we've got to redo it. That's fine. So we'll go over here to Jeep. 2012. Grand Cherokee. Standard key. Which it really don't matter. Those T-harnesses are pretty much for all of them. From like, I think 2011 and up. But we'll look at our guide. So if we go down, it's only got A, B, and C. Now see, this is where it comes in handy. So the only ones that you'll have to do yourself are the hood input, which is fine. It does look like there are a couple wires that come off here that you'll have to connect to one connector, and one that comes from here to another. The rest is plug and play. So literally, you'll unplug your connector. You'll plug this in its place, and you'll plug the connector that was plugged up into this female connector. That way it all works together and it gets the data that it needs. It makes install a breeze. It makes it quick, easy. So I do hope whoever's watching this, your vehicle has a T-harness kit, because otherwise you're going to be like me and you're going to have to splice into the wires. But that's not too bad, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so I went ahead and printed off everything, including our wire diagram. As you can see here, we're going to have to add that relay right here, which they included for us, which is really nice. And it's really just matching it up to the connectors. The very first thing we're going to do is take out all these connectors, M1, M2, M3, and so on. And any of these that are grayed out and not used, we're going to clip off. That way we don't get them mixed up. So over here at the right side, you got your connectors. If you look at the top, it'll tell you A, B, C, and then if you look at the other side, so we know A, B, C, D, F, and E. We know all of our parts are right here under our dash. This is really handy and neat. It's not going to give you a precise location, but it's going to give you a roundabout location to follow. Also, something to be very aware of is right up here, you'll see cut loop for automatic transmission. So we will cut the loop. So here's our DC3 module. Right there's our loop. We are going to cut that. Okay, so real quick, why am I using the DC3 instead of this CM900AS? This is a more universal unit, so if I need to add a different device later, I can. It's got the built-in programming and everything else, where this one, you have to add your own blade and program it. So I prefer to go with this one. I did forget, there is one more thing we do have to get, is FT-HRN-DC3. That is the rest of our M plugs. If you don't have those, you won't be able to do the install. So now I'm gonna have to wait for that, and then we'll be back. Okay, so while I wait for the other wiring to come in, I'm gonna go ahead and start on it. But normally what I would do is, if you got all the stuff already here, do one wire at a time. And I would take each connector, plug them in, make sure that you're getting the right ones. And then any of these that are grayed out that we don't need, go ahead and cut them off so you don't accidentally splice into them when you don't need to. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and tap into each of these. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. Okay, so since there's only a few wires at each connector, the most you have to use is right here, 2, 4, 6. I'm going to be using this. It has A through Z and 0 through 15. I'm going to use the numbers. So if we open it up, for each connector, I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever else I need. You could label them with letters, whatever helps you remember what you're doing and where they went. That way, when the wiring harnesses come in, all I have to do is attach the wires that I ran to the wiring connectors and then plug it into our DC3 unit. Okay, so coming in here, we have 1 screw, 2 screws, and then there's a third one right there, I believe. So let's take all those out and we can pull this cover off. Okay, so once you remove those 3 screws, just grab on right here, pull down, just like that. Now we should be able to work it out of here. So at this point, this part's open too, so you can just kind of move it out of the way. Okay, so looking in here, we have our ignition switch. You can see it connects to the back of the cylinder. So this is the one we need. If we go under here, here's the clock spring one we need. And then for the pats, you need to come over here. It's right here. So your ignition cylinder, it's this one right here. So now we've identified all of our connectors. Okay, so for this connector, all you're going to do is reach in here, push it down. There we go. Okay, for our clock spring, you just want to press in, pull out. This is hard to do one-handed, so I'm going to do it off camera. Finally, on this last one, you'll just press in and pull out. Now then, with all these removed, I'm going to cut one and splice a wire into it and show you what I'm going to do. I won't bore you with doing them all, but I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so looking at our ignition switch, we got 1 and 5 above each other. 1 is blue, and then 5 is green. So always check your connectors. I'll show you that now. Okay, so coming to our connector, 1 is right here, and then 5 is right here. We can check that by going to the back of our connector and making sure all that lines up, because you want to make sure you have the right connector and that you're looking at it correctly. Okay, as you can see here, I just used a crimp connector. If you feel better soldering it, go for it. I trust these. Now we'll label this one, this red wire that I got coming out of there. Okay, so if you look here, I put that little piece of tape. It says number 1 on there. So we know this goes to the number 1 spot on the connector. Okay, on this orange wire, I had to connect 2 different wires because one will go to this relay. I'll show you that up on screen. And all I'm doing is numbering them. So there's 1. There's 8. Okay, if we look here, I put the connector back on. I wrapped all those connections in Tessa tape. Now these wires that are coming out of it, I also Tessa tape them up. That'll protect them from chafing and gives it a nice cleaner look. So we'll run it right down through there. Now that connector is the connector that we have to tap into the most, and it will have the biggest wires. So to me, that's the worst part of the job. But now I like to put it back in and make sure everything works properly on the car still. That way we know that our connections are good and everything else. Because if we connect everything up and then try to start our car, we don't know which one's our problem. Okay, with everything plugged up, cranks right up. That check engine light's been there, so don't worry about that. But we're good to go. Okay, so for the rest of these, whenever I do like headlamp switch, as you can see it says this connector is D, and that's how they have it labeled. So on the wire I will put 1D and so on. So like this one is E, I'll put 1E and 2E on the 2 wires that correspond with it. Now then, going back up here real quick on our orange wire, number 8, if we look here where we had to tie 2 different wires into it, one of them gets the 15 amp fuse put into it and then ran to the relay. We're going to go ahead and put that 15 amp fuse in now. Okay, so this is an inline fuse holder. As you can see, you got your fuse right there. We're just going to cut it down there and connect it to the wire. Okay, so we had wire number 8 come in. We connected it to our fuse holder and then back out. That side will go to our relay. And then you can always put this cap right back on there. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through and connect all the rest up and then we'll start back. But real quick, I'll show you each one that you need to connect into. On your clock spring, right here on the bottom right is a blue one. You're going to tap into that blue one. Okay, so looking at our immobilizer, you want the 2 right ones over there, the blue, and it says light blue right beside it, but it looks green. But those are the 2 that you want to connect into. We also need to tap into this headlamp connector. It's right here. Okay, so on your headlight switch, this gray one right here is the one that you want to tap into. Okay, so coming in here, right back there, there's 2 white connectors we need to pull off. Okay, I have those unplugged. That was really kind of difficult. You had to go in there with a pick. I took my left hand, stuck it through the top here, took my right hand, went underneath and up, and now they're both disconnected on this one. We need that middle green wire right there. And then on this bigger one, they don't give you a lot of wire, but it's the back green one right there. So there's the tab. It's in this back, it's right back there. There's a light green that goes in front of it, but there's a dark green there. You want the dark green. Finally, on this OBD connector, you're going to want the black wire, the white wire, and the red wire. Okay, so this finally came in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So in this kit, you'll get this connector, get your little blue connector, that one, then you get your main connector as well. Okay, so first thing we want to do is make sure we have all our connectors. So we're just going to plug up the appropriate connector. Now we have them all connected. Okay, so on the back side you'll see M1, M5, M4, M6, M2, and M3. So they don't go in a straight line. like you would think they would. So we need that information when we go to our wiring diagram. Okay, so up to this point we have spliced into all these wires and we haven't went any further. I haven't even done the relay yet, but it's as simple as connecting them. But you see this little scissors icon? You're going to cut that wire and you're not going to rejoin it. You're going to make one wire go from there to this pin, and then the other one that's coming to the connector go to that pin. We did put our inline fuse in. I will have to cut this one. I did forget to do that one actually. I connected it to this wire, but other than that, we're ready to go. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to unplug all these, and any of these that are grayed out, I'm going to go ahead and cut short. That way I don't bother with them and I don't accidentally splice into something I'm not supposed to. So let me get that done and we'll go from there. Okay, something to be aware of. M4, it says number 3 and number 4 are brown with red and brown with yellow. Well, the M4 connection doesn't have those. So the way to get around this, I guess they changed it up. I don't know what happened, but everything else has been matching up right. But what it is looking at the back side of the connector. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way down. So in this case, 3 and 4 are going to be this red and white, which would be our 3 would be our brown and red, and 4 would be our brown and yellow. So we're going to have to work on that. I'll probably go ahead and number them, but that's how you would deal with this issue. Okay, so I figured out why the M4 was incorrect. It came with the original remote start that we had, and that's why the wiring was different colors. And these match up perfectly with what they're supposed to be, where this one, as you can tell, it's got green and all this stuff that's not on here. You could still do it where, 1, 2 on bottom, 3, 4, 5, 6, and still follow it and it'll still work properly. But I prefer to use the connectors that have the exact same coloring as the diagram, just to make it a little easier on myself, if possible. But if I didn't have that other M1 to come with it, then guess what? I would just go ahead and use what I got. Anyways, let me show you what I've got. Okay, as you can see here, I just cut off all these extra wires. There was a ton to cut off, like especially back here, and then left everything we need. The main one that's going to have a lot is the M1 plug and the M4 plug. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and just keep following the wire diagram. Anybody can do that. And once we get past that, I'll show you how to program it and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we're about to program this. Went ahead and cut the loop for the automatic transmission. I went ahead and plugged up our two-way antenna. It goes to the blue port on the other side from this side. And if you don't know, you can always just read on the back here. It tells you what everything is. So I'm about to plug it all up. Also, just for right now, just for testing purposes, I push the button in for the hood switch. That way it'll think the hood is closed and we won't have any problems. Once I make sure everything works, I'll wire it in and hook it up. Okay, so now that we got our iData Link ADS-USB connected to our DC3 module, now we need to flash our firmware. In order to do this, you want to go up here to the search bar and you're going to type in myfirsttech.idatalink.com. You don't want the rest of the URL in there. So right here, you'll see flash your module. So we'll go ahead and connect the USB to our computer. Okay, so now we'll hit flash your module. Okay, so we'll have to get this right here. We'll hit get it now. We have Windows. Gotta accept. Okay, so I found my destination folder that I wanted to put it on my H drive, but you can put it on your C drive or any drive, it doesn't matter. Hit install. Now all we gotta do is click run on WebLink desktop. It's already checked for us, so we're good. And just hit finish. Now you do have to sign up for this. It is free to do. So what you'll do is just go down here to sign up. And I'm gonna fill all this out and I'll get back with you. Okay, so once you verify your email address, now you can hit back to home. So now if we go back to this page, as you can see, we can hit continue now. And then open WebLink desktop. Now you're going to type in your username or email address and password. Okay, so now you want to choose your project. So you got WebLink RS, so your remote starter, or your Maestro. We're going to do remote start. Okay, so we can configure new module right here because it's already detected that's what we have up. We'll select our make, which is a Mazda. It's 2010. Mazda 3. Standard key automatic. So if adding the drone package here, you can turn that on. We're not, so we'll just hit save and continue. So there's the firmware we need right there. We'll click it. OEM remote start is not an available package on this one. So some of them will allow you to hit your lock button 3 times on your original remote and it will run. In this case, you can't, which is fine. We'll have the other remote on us all the time anyways. So we'll hit OK. Now up here, we have our runtime. We can set it to 15 minutes, 3 minutes, all the way up to 35 minutes. 15 minutes is usually the standard, but you can always come back and reflash this to anything you want later on. So don't feel like you're trapped if you choose the wrong one. So now we'll go to save and go to features menu. Engine type gas. This has a bunch of different things you can enable and disable. As you can see, there's a lot that you can customize with this. It's really interesting what all you can do here. Let's go ahead and go to next menu. And yeah, there's just a ton of stuff you can do here, which is really nice. All right, next menu. And there we go. So that's pretty much everything you can do, but it's really nice that you have that functionality to change any of those to do as you wish. So we're going to save and go to the guides. Now these are the guides that we've already looked at. Same with all this. See all wires. This will tell you the color, the location, component location, and so forth, which is really cool. Now if we go back to all, we go to flash, and you make sure everything is ready to go, and we'll hit flash your device. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go out there and connect it to the vehicle, and then we can come back and reconnect it like it says to do. Okay, so remember, you have to have all your doors closed and everything shut. So now we're going to go through the steps. Ignition on. Hold the button on the side. Should turn green. There we go. Now, LED 1 will flash green. Turn the key off. Now disconnect the power last. Disconnect module from vehicle. Then we'll go back, re-plug it up to our computer. So just make sure the last one you pull out is this black one right here. So pull all those out and then the black one. Okay, so I just re-plugged up the module. Now we're going to hit continue extended programming. Okay, the flash is completed. So now we're good to go hook it up to our car and give it a try. Okay, so this is going to be hard to record, but the next step is to hook up the power first and then hook up the rest. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so it fell out of my lap while I was doing that. So we're at the part where both of them turned green. We're going to turn the key off, start the vehicle for 15 seconds. Now all we got to do is press and hold the brake pedal. We're going to press the module's programming button, just a short press, and then release the brake pedal, and then LED 2 will flash green. So push in the brake pedal, press that, let go of the brake pedal, flash green twice, and that's good to go right there. So before we do anything else, we have to do this takeover procedure. Make sure all the doors are closed and you lock the car. Now press unlock on the OEM or aftermarket remote. So not the ones that you're actually about to program here in a minute. Now insert the key into ignition, turn it on, press the brake, and then that should be it. Okay, so whenever you need to add your battery, or if you need to change batteries, there's a little tab right here you got to pull down. On the side that it's got this little notch in it, you want to push up. So we'll pull down on that, push up, see how it came up, then you pull it off. Put it back on, boom, push it back on right there, slide it down. Now you're good to go. Okay, now it's time to program our remotes. We're going to go ahead and pick this up because you need to be quick about it. So there's our lock. If you have a standard key, what you're going to do is turn it on and off and leave it on the on position on the 5th time. So 4, 5, it honked, hit lock, and then hit lock on this one. There we go. That ought to do it. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and turn our vehicle off and we'll check our key. So lock, it locks, unlock, perfect. Okay, so you may be asking, well, what if mine's push to start? How do I program it? Well, that's simple too. All you gotta do is go to your ignition where it's push to start. Don't hold the brake, hit it twice to make it go to run, then hit it once more, it'll go off. Twice, go back to run, and then you're going to tap your brake 3 times. After that 3rd time, you'll hear that chirp, then you hit lock on all your remotes, and you're good to go. Okay, so now's the moment of truth. Here's our thing. That bottom button right there, the one that looks like a key, is our remote start button. Gonna hold that. Okay, says remote start, lock the doors. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. And it lets you know that, hey, the vehicle has started. Now, there's your 15-minute counter. So at this point, we can put everything back together and tuck those wires away nice and neat. If you want to turn off your vehicle for whatever reason, maybe you're inside and now you got to work over or whatever, just hold that same button. And there we go, turns it right off. Okay, so now that you have your remote up and going, now you may want to fix some of the things on the remote itself. If we look here, it says it's 6:51 a.m. So I'll show you how to change that. And if you don't like the beeping, you can also put it on vibrate mode instead. So what you're going to do is the unlock and the trunk. You're going to hold those down. Okay. So if we hit the lock button, that will move the hours up. And then if we hit the unlock button, there we go. Now then we'll hit the key button. Now this, with the flashing engine light, this is, you can program it to start at a certain time. Now this has to be enabled and you have to have everything ready for that. We'll hit the key button again. Now it's doing a, where you can have an alarm, just a regular alarm for when you may want to start it. This thing will beep and go off. Hit the key button again. We have alarm off, AL off. Hit the key button again, RPS, the pager. You can turn that on or off. We'll hit the key button again. Now we have VI, which is vibrate. We could turn that on by hitting the lock button. Now we can hit the key button again, temperature. You can have Fahrenheit or hit the lock button, go to Celsius. And sliding doors. And then display. It's on for 9 seconds right now. But we can hit the lock button, go to 12, or go to 6. It was on 9, I'll leave it on 9. So now we're done with that. So now we can just hold those two buttons again. There we go. So now when we start the car, it's not going to beep, it'll vibrate. So we'll do that now. There we go, it vibrated for me. And as you can hear, it started the car. And it's vibrating right now to let me know the car has started. And that's about all you need to know. There's other features. If you need to know about those, let me know and I'll make a video on them. Okay, so when installing your hood safety switch, you need to find a good location for it. The typical spots are going to be up here, down here somewhere, or on the other side. So you're usually right in here or up there. You just have to find a spot that whenever the hood is closed, this goes all the way down, and then whenever it's open, it's up. That way it protects your mechanic, or if you work on it, from someone starting it while you're in there. Okay, so this car has this little stopper for the hood. So I'm just going to drill right beside it. And I'm going to have this depressed and line it up where it's flush with this. Maybe a little bit taller, but not by much. That way when the hood's closed, this is for sure closed. So all we did was remove the nut. Stick this back in there. Now then, to lower this, we'll turn this counterclockwise. Now bring it closer down. That looks about pretty good to me. So now we'll just tighten it up. There we go. I just used 2 adjustable wrenches. Okay, so now we need to run the wire through the firewall. Pretty much every car, you can usually see it. There'd be a rubber grommet over in this area. On this particular car, we need to remove the battery first, and then I'll be able to show you where I'll be pushing it through at. And then you can always take silicone and make sure that it's a watertight seal again. So words of wisdom here. Make sure you run the wire first and go ahead and connect it, because it's kind of a pain usually, no matter where you find a spot, to get that wire in there. That way you don't adjust it and then have to take it back out just to hook up that wire. But at this point, all we gotta do is clean up our mess and we're good to go. If you found this video helpful, please do me a big favor and leave me a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you.